Operation for the power gear leveling system is the same whether you have a spring return system or a power return system. Looking at the touchpad, the buttons for front, rear, right, and left are correlating to the jack placement on the frame. So to have a really good idea of this, we're going to go out to the bay and run operation on our mock-up. Now that we've made it out to the bay, let's go over the things that you'll need before you begin operation. So we talked about the battery needing to have good voltage and how the system's going to sense whether you have a low voltage or not. Your system will not work if your voltage to your battery is not consistent and above that 12.5 and close to that 3.5 range. So we have our battery with our battery charger to simulate the engine being on, charging our battery. You'll also want to make sure that park brake is engaged and that transmission is in neutral before you begin operation. Like I said, that safety interconnect will measure all of those things, and if those things are not in place, your system will not work. Let's go over to our touchpad and begin operation. So we've made it to our touchpad, and before we press the on button, you'll want to make sure that you're on a flat level surface, that nothing is underneath any of your landing gear. If you have any low spots in that area, you'll want to put distribution pads underneath these jacks. So let's turn this on. The system's saying wait, so that controller is taking a few calibrations and measurements, making sure that everything is in place for operation. Now we have our engage park brake signal. So we have this to simulate the park brake, and now it has that continuity to ground. Our system's already level, and that's why this green power gear logo is flashing in the center. So we'll still want to have some stabilization. We can press auto, and we can auto level our system and have that stabilization. So now the controller is thinking about what it's going to do to find that stabilization for our unit, beginning with those front jacks up here. The front jacks will always go down in unison. So they're both going to extend and touch the ground first. And now that the front jacks have went down, the rear jacks are also going to extend. It's thinking about what it's going to do. Now we have one rear jack going down, and that should be on the driver's side or the road side. And then our curb side will go down. And the rear jacks can go down in unison, or they can go down independently, depending on what your system needs to get that level from side to side. So ours is sensing that it has a little bit of low voltage, and we need to turn our battery charger up. If you have your engine running, charging your battery, you will not have that issue. So our touchpad is telling us the jacks are down, and that green power logo is flashing, telling us that our system has found level. As you can notice, our tires are up off the ground. If you were leveling your coach, you would not want this to happen. It happened because ours isn't as heavy, it's just a mock-up. So ours are up off the ground. If your tires are off the ground, you need to go back to your touchpad and manually level your coach to make sure that all your tires are in contact with the ground. These jacks are just for stabilization, and they're not meant to hold up the entire weight of the coach. When you're ready to retract your jacks and leave your campsite, you'll come back to your touchpad, turn it on, and you can press Retract All. So the jacks should all retract together, and you press that button and you wait for that jack down light to turn off. So the controller is looking for that bobber switch to go back up into that retract position and sense that closed circuit so that it can tell you that the jacks are no longer down and you can leave your campsite. There's a few reasons that you would want to operate your system in manual mode. Manual mode is the first step for that 0-point calibration. So we're in manual mode. Let's extend the front jacks first. Once those front jacks make contact with the ground, you'll want to make sure that they continue to extend for about 3 inches. Then we can extend our rear jacks. The front jacks will always work in unison, and when you press rear, the rear will work in unison. But when you go to level from side to side, the rear jacks will work independently and the front jacks will stay in one spot. So our jacks have made contact with the ground, so we could level side by side, but you can tell that we're level now by the flashing Power Gear logo in the center of that diamond. So let's say our right side of our coach was at a level. The left light and that front light would come on because now our right side is up higher and the left side is lower, so our system's not level. So you would follow those lights until that green Power Gear logo came back on. So when you go to retract your jacks after using manual mode, it will only retract the jacks as long as you are pressing that button. So as you can see here, I'm going to press retract. And when I stop, this unit stops going down towards the ground. You'll have to hold retract until they are completely back into place and that jacks down light turns off. That manual mode is the same for this automatic touchpad, and it mirrors that same operation for the semi-automatic touchpad as well, where you're following the lights until you get that level.